Good? Okay, here we go, TechBridge Nation. Let's start with a personal note. Tell you guys a secret. I love these three. They're awesome. I think you guys are going to enjoy them today. They're all from here, and that's what we're going to be talking about is here. So bring your questions, bring the hard questions to this panel today, okay? Let me introduce my friends. Michelle Ray Conway is an award-winning entrepreneur, educator, speaker, and strategist. She is also today's panel moderator. Michelle serves as the Director for Student and Client Services and Business Incubator Manager at Alvernia University's Opaque Institute, an organization that fosters entrepreneurial activity and economic development in Reading. She is also an adjunct faculty member in the College of Business, Communication, and Leadership. Prior to her role at Alvernia, Michelle acted as the interim assistant director at Wilkes University's Allen P. Kirby Center for Free Enterprise and Entrepreneurship. In the last 3 years, Conway has mentored over 200 businesses in the areas of business development, business planning, market analysis, and strategic planning. She is newly the author of If You're in Your 20s, Read This, a short story to inspire young professionals to own their journey, celebrate their inexperience, and transform. Michelle, how old are you? 26. Brianna Florovito. Bree is the Ignite Program Manager for the Greater Scranton Chamber of Commerce, where she is responsible for over 20 program clients and 2 incubators. Bree joined the Chamber as a workforce and entrepreneurial development specialist, where she focused on economic and workforce strategies for the organization and its affiliates. Outside of her Chamber responsibilities, Bree is an adjunct instructor at Lackawanna College and Marywood University. She also recently co-authored the article, Subject, Position, and Manifestations of Workforce Followership, published in the Journal of Organizational Psychology. Bree is a graduate of the Business Leads Fellowship Program offered by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation. She earned an MBA from Wilkes University, a BA in Sociology from Rutgers University, and has studied at Central European University in Budapest, Hungary. I got to do this. Bree loves cows, NASCAR, and especially her daughter, Delaney. Shanie Mohamed. Shanie is Director of Economic Development, Wilkes-Barre Connect, the entrepreneurial and economic development arm of the Greater Wyoming Valley Chamber of Commerce, where she has spent 2 years designing and developing unique, customized projects, programs, and initiatives to create a positive impact on northeastern Pennsylvania. I'll just say that again. Create a positive impact on Northeast Pennsylvania. As a certified enterprise design thinking practitioner, Shanie's approach to problem solving has been a tried and true method of testing solutions to social and economic issues in the region. Most recently, Shanie served as the project manager of Coding the Coal Region, a federally funded pilot program designed to increase the computer programming skills in Northeast PA and meet the immediate regional workforce needs of the computer programming industry. Prior to the role at the Chamber, Shanie served as a student design team member for Wilkes-Barre Connect, and her past internship experiences include serving as the entrepreneurial services intern at the Penn State Scranton Launchbox and the social media management intern at Cole Creative. She has recently graduated from Business Leads Fellowship Program through the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation. Shanie graduated summa cum laude from Penn State University in 2020 with her BS in business and is a proud member of her family's small trucking company. In case you haven't figured it out, 3 badass ladies. All right? Michelle's going to moderate. We don't have a lot of time because of all these bios. Michelle, let it rip.
Hi, TechBridge Nation. Hello. Future entrepreneurs of northeastern Pennsylvania. Hi, Shanie.
Hi.
Hi, Bree.
Hey.
Before we get into this fireside chat, I want to warm things up a little bit. So you should have a rubber band. I don't know if I brought enough because I wasn't expecting to see this sea of leaders. So if you don't, imagine it for me. You're creatives, right? And for anyone that's joining us virtually, you can imagine it as well. So you have the rubber band in front of you, if you have it. If not, you're going to pretend. And I want you to stretch it in every direction possible. Stretch it out, stretch it out. If you break it, that's okay. Keep stretching. Did anyone break it yet? Okay, now you can bring it back to its original form. And to kick it off, that's what it feels like to be an entrepreneur and a young professional. We are constantly stretching, we are constantly growing, we are constantly learning, and sometimes we break. But no matter what, you can always start fresh. I just saw one break, that's okay. You can always start fresh, and there's always a new day ahead. So with that, I am so honored to be here, and I know that Dawn gave those wonderful introductions, but I also want to state that in the universe of economic development and entrepreneurship, Shanie and Bree are shining stars. And when I was listening to their stories and preparing for this panel discussion, I was taken away by their amazing stories. And it's such a pleasure to be able to moderate this panel today so that they can share their light and shine that light on all of you as well. So with that, we're going to start. Okay. Shanie, I'll start with you.
Okay.
All three of us serve as experts in economic development and entrepreneurship. We didn't expect to be here, right? So what's your story? How did you get to where you are today?
Yeah, well, I think some of it was mentioned in my bio for sure, so thank you, Dawn, for reading that so well. Before I answer that, by a show of hands, how many of you actually have heard or know what economic development is? Yeah, that was me until about yesterday. I've actually been working in this field for about 2 years, fresh out of college. Economic development comprises of so many things. It's all the things. It's everything that you do and work towards to push a region forward. So imagine coming out of college and thinking, well, I want to do something good. I want to, apply my business degree in some way, but what does that actually look like? And for me, there was not a better place to be roped into other than economic development to kind of be able to be exposed to all of the areas of business and of community engagement and of entrepreneurship and actually figure out what niche that was. So I did start off at Penn State Scranton. I was a student there. I had internships and research positions there, and I was able to acquire a position at the Launchbox where I was interning and working with a lot of entrepreneurs daily. And then from there, I took some additional internship experiences and got myself ultimately to interning for the organization that I work for today. I was still a student, and I was building all of these programs and initiatives and tossing around the idea of entrepreneurship and what it actually means to be innovative and apply something to better the area. And by the time I was finished with that sector of my internship, there was a job waiting for me. So I ended up going straight into the chamber, and I have been there ever since.
Fabulous. And one more question. I know that you come from an entrepreneurial household. Did that have an impact on you wanting to pursue a career in entrepreneurship in some way, intentionally or not?
Yeah, I definitely think you're definitely a product of your environment. It's what you teach yourself, but it's also the surroundings that you're in, right? So I come from a small business family. My father started a trucking company when I was a little girl, and I've been helping out with it ever since I was about 13. So I've witnessed firsthand what it's like to start a business, what it's like to fail in certain aspects, but what it's like to push past the failure and grow and help expand and be a part of that process. To this day, everyone in my family, at least my immediate family, has a role within that company. So every single day, it's about managing your time. It's about understanding the flow of how things work and how things don't work. And when you do fail, because you will inevitably fail, how you pick yourself back up and do better from it. And that's something that, with your parents and with a family like that, you're taught from the very first time you start working with them. Yeah.
Thank you. And Bree, what is your story?
All right, so I want to tell you my story centered around 3 times life really hit me in the face. Okay, so the first time life really hit me in the face was when I was a freshman in college. Now, I went to Rutgers, and I went in with the intentions of being a genetics major. I was the nerd in high school that asked for genetics textbooks for Christmas, and yes, I did get them. And when I went in, the second semester of my freshman year was absolutely terrible, okay? I failed chemistry. I dropped out of Calc 2, and I was left in shambles. I was like, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? I have no direction. So I had to sit and regroup and think about, okay, well, what are the other options that I really have for myself? So I took a bunch of random classes, no rhyme or reason to them, and fell in love with sociology and the social sciences. And I was like, all right, great, I'm back on my path. I'm going to become a social scientist. I'm going to get my PhD in sociology after undergrad, and I'm going to be a professor, and I'm going to do research, and that's what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And then that's when life hit me in the face again. Senior year of college, it was November, I found out I was pregnant with my daughter. And I was like, okay, well, we gotta go back to the drawing table. I can't really go straight into a PhD program. I have to make money, right? I have a life coming that I need to take care of and provide for. I need a job. So when I graduated, I was 7 months pregnant. Talk about trying to job search when you're 7 months pregnant. It's a little bit of a challenge, but I ended up finding myself in workforce development. I worked for the PA Career Link in Wilkes-Barre, met a lot of really great people, and fell in love with workforce development, helping people like you understand what their career journey can be and how to get there. And I was so passionate about it, helping people find what their destiny was to do for their futures. So then, that's when life hit me in the face again. I actually got very sick, and there was a year in my life where I was like, I really understood the fragility of life and health, and it turned me internally to say, what do I need to do to live my life? And really, that brought me back to helping people. So I love to public speak and talk to others. So I was speaking at a workforce development board meeting where I got the opportunity to come over to the Scranton Chamber of Commerce and work in economic development and entrepreneurship. And I thought, you know, I've never been an entrepreneur. My background is not in business. What do I have to offer other entrepreneurs? But when somebody offers you a seat on a rocket ship, you take it, you don't turn it down. So
Woo, write that down. Say it again, Bree.
What?
Say that line again.
Oh, when somebody offers you a seat on a rocket ship, you don't turn it down, you take it, right? So that's how I sort of ended up here on this crazy journey with all of you.
You rock. Thanks for that. So how many in the room are aspiring entrepreneurs? Aspiring entrepreneurs, raise your hands high. Higher. Higher. Okay. Amazing. So we'll start with you, Bree. What advice do you have for any aspiring entrepreneur in the room?
Never count yourself out. One of the things that I've seen just being around entrepreneurs is that there can at times be so much self-doubt. You're going to question yourself constantly. But there has to be a voice inside of you that really wants to drive your vision, your dreams, your goals. You have to believe in yourself. And there's a community of people here, right here, that also believe in you just as much and maybe even more than you do yourself. So surround yourself with the people that will help you to accomplish your dream. And the great thing is that you are in the room with those people right now. So look around you. Make note of these faces, make note of these names, but you have to 100% believe in yourself every step of the way.
Shanie, what about you?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me, I only just left academia 2 years ago, so in a lot of ways I feel like I still think like a student. One of the biggest things that I would say is crucial for an entrepreneur is that even if you're not taking the path of, you know, continued school, that doesn't mean you stop learning. Like, you need to adopt this lifelong learner mentality. That's how you continue to grow, continue to absorb all the knowledge. That's how you gain the experience for you to do well in what you want to pursue. When you're taking in feedback, take that as constructive. Criticism is actually what's going to help push you forward. And in some ways, that involves you having some thick skin, right? Some things you don't want to hear, but that's ultimately what's going to help you do better. At the end of the day, you're going to have so many, you know, back to the drawing board conversations. You're going to put in tons of hours towards something and realize, like, well, crap, it doesn't work. And that's when you keep going. You scrap the idea, you start again, and you do it again and again, and you only are able to do that well if you keep learning and keep taking in info.
Thank you. So all three of us, we have less than 10 years of professional experience. So we are the definition of young professionals, right? And Shanie just touched on a really important point. We were not students long ago. I'm actually still a student. I'm a doctoral student at Alvernia University. So what was that like? Shanie, we'll start with you, transitioning from a student to a young professional and a leader.
Yeah, and I was always the person that, like, I enjoyed school. Like, I did well. I wasn't a nerd, but, I was kind of a nerd.
Being a nerd is cool.
Okay, yes. But coming out of school and joining the workforce makes you realize sometimes how unprepared you might feel to tackle a lot of challenges. And as incredible as it is to have an education and to take a lot of classes and be exposed to all these different topics, sometimes there are harsh realities that come with being in the real world that sometimes school does not prepare you for. Like the biggest adjustment for me was being able to, think outside the box. In schools, you take tests and there's an answer key. There is no answer key. It's not just that nobody typed up the answer key. It's just genuinely that there are no answers. Mm-hmm. So up to you to be able to determine what the problem is and actually build the solution yourself. And a lot of students in school, they don't leave school thinking like, oh, there's going to be answers and I just eventually have to find them out. In some cases, that is the journey that they find themselves in, but you have to be comfortable with the fact that you could be heading into the unknown. You could be taking on something that maybe doesn't yet have a solution, but it's up to you to be innovative and creative and determined to actually put in the time to figure it out. That involves some failure, but I know we'll talk a little bit about that later too. That's something that maybe school doesn't prepare you for all the time, but super, super important and really needed as an entrepreneur.
Thanks, Shanie. And then Bree, you're a lifelong learner as well. You were considering pursuing a PhD, so talk to us about what it was like for you in that transition.
So I'll be completely honest, the transition was rough. I had a 2-month-old at home, so I really wasn't getting much sleep, and I'll actually tell you a little story. So my first day on the job, we went to the Humboldt Industrial Park for a bus tour. So they put us on a bus, took us around the Humboldt Industrial Park, and I was sitting next to my supervisor on the bus, and I actually fell asleep on her shoulder. And I thought, oh great, my first day on the job, I fell asleep at work, I'm going to get fired immediately. But the funny thing that story taught me was at the end of the day, as business professionals, we are all human beings. And after the bus tour, she took me aside and she was like, I completely understand where you are in life right now. She met me where I was, and she took me from a place of understanding. And that was something I never really learned in school. I had all of these preconceived notions about like what the real world was like and what it was going to be like and how I had to act and what I had to say and what I had to be, and none of it was true. And it took me a long time to learn that, but at the end of the day, in the professional world, we're all just human beings, and we're all just trying to make our way as best we can, and we're trying to help each other. So realize that when you go into the real world from school, you're just going to be able to connect with people on a level that you never really thought before.
Thanks, Bree. And speaking of being human, I want to talk about a really scary topic, imposter syndrome. Anybody know about that? Yeah. Okay, I see one hand raised high. So if you haven't experienced imposter syndrome yet, it is a little doubt. It's a voice that creeps up inside of you. Mine could be in this setting. Why did Dawn ask me to be up here? Why am I here? And it happens to us. So, Shanie, I'll start with you. What is imposter syndrome? How do you deal with it? Tell us how to overcome that.
Yes, so that little voice that's in your head does not leave you when you graduate either. I was just telling the girls up here, I experienced this as recent as Monday. exactly by what you meant. Like, Don, why did you ask me to be here? I'm not qualified to be here. But it's that voice that's telling you you're not qualified to be here that in some ways threatens you and makes you feel like you need to freeze or back out of a situation. It's the voice that stops you from pursuing something that will ultimately push you forward. But I've dealt with it a lot before in my life because I generally approach a lot of really interesting opportunities at a really young age. So sometimes my age being so young, it's a bit daunting for me to be in a room full of seasoned professionals doing some of the things that they're also doing and thinking that I'm not cut out to be there with them. But you are in the rooms that you are in because you are taking the steps to be qualified.
Shanie, stop, say that one more time.
You're taking, what did I say?
You're in the rooms you're meant to be in.
You're in the rooms that you're meant to be in so that you can be more qualified.
Yes.
Thanks for the reminder. And I guess the piece about imposter syndrome ultimately is, and I apply this to every single day, if I have never felt imposter syndrome, it's probably because I'm not in the right room. If I am in a room full of people that if everybody in the room is smarter than me, that means I'm in the right room. That means I'm surrounding myself with people that I can learn from, the people that have the expertise and the experience. That's how I ultimately grow and get better. If I feel like I have imposter syndrome, it's likely because I don't know where to go, don't know what to do, don't know who to ask to help me, but I'm taking the right steps to learn that, and that's ultimately how I've been able to push through it.
Amazing. Thank you for that. And Bree, what about you? What is imposter syndrome to you, and how do you overcome?
Imposter syndrome for me happens quite often, actually. Like I said, I didn't come from a business background and I've never been an entrepreneur. So as a person who now helps entrepreneurs run their business, oftentimes I question myself and say, you've never experienced this. What do you really have to offer these entrepreneurs? But you just disprove yourself over and over and over again. And then the next time you hear that voice, you have that remembrance of, actually, I do have something to offer. And then you can shut it up because never listen to it. It's never true. It's always a lie. Like Shanie said, you're in the rooms that you are in because you are meant to be there. Regardless of who you are, where you come from, how much experience you have, you know something that other people don't. You always have something to teach other people. You deserve to be there and you have something to contribute. So don't ever let that imposter syndrome get to you.
Thank you, Bree. Now, TechBridge Nation, you know a little bit more about imposter syndrome now. Has anyone ever felt that way? Well, so do we. So we're going to power through this together. That's what we do. We all come together, and once you recognize what imposter syndrome is, it's so much easier to counteract that with a positive mindset and really intention. And that's where I want to go next with this conversation. So Don Webster is my mentor, and one thing that he taught me is to overcome imposter syndrome. You can celebrate your successes and your experiences and do that often. So I'll start with you, Bree. What are you most proud of? Did you get that question a lot?
I don't actually. So I'm really happy that you asked it because it forces you to really look back and reflect and think about what do you do and what have you done in your life. And of course, I'm most proud of my daughter. She is amazing. I love her so much. But as a professional, I think just the fact that we can get up every day and go out into the community, and we have the capability to make the changes that we want to see, right? The positions that we hold in our jobs are super special, right? And we can look at our communities and say, what do we want to have here? Like all of you can do that. What do we want to have in the community? What don't we see? And we can create it from scratch together. So being the people that can help guide our future leaders, our future innovators, all of you sitting here, really just is what I'm most proud of.
Thanks, Bree. I love that. What about you, Shanie? What are you most proud of?
Yeah, and I think Bree said it so well in relation to the type of work we get to do within our communities and what type of impact we get to make. And I know, Bree, you and I were in this program as well, so you'll know what I'm talking about. We were both in a fellowship program And one of the proudest moments that I have, that I can most recently think of, are the times where I actually took a leap of faith when I didn't even think it would land for me. Taking a leap of faith and trying to build myself a seat at a table to help me learn, to help me become a better person, to create that community impact that you talked about. So this fellowship program, it was really rigorous. It's national, so they only select 35 individuals in the country to take it on. And Bree actually recommended me to take this fellowship program, and I'm so thankful that she did that, because it forced me to put myself in the mindset of, okay, maybe I want to take this on. Maybe it could go really badly for me, but at the very least, I will know I tried. And I'm very happy that I took that leap of faith, because it worked out for me. I got accepted, and I went through an entire program where I was learning about my area of expertise, which in turn helps address my imposter syndrome, helps address all of these times where I feel like I'm failing. I put myself in a position to learn more, and I was afraid to take that leap of faith, and I didn't think it would work out for me, but ultimately it did. And I think that's something I'm super proud of myself for doing. I think I was brave for, they always say like bravery. It's about knowing what scares you, but doing it anyways. And I feel like that was probably the most recent example of doing exactly that. I'm really happy about.
Excellent, Shanie. Okay, so TechBridge Nation. Did I tell you that I was going to have shining stars up here with me, or what? Can we just take a moment? We're going to talk more, but just reflect on everything that you've heard so far. Do you feel that energy in the room? Does anyone feel it? You're feeling it? Say it out loud. You're feeling it? Okay, right? This is amazing. I'm feeling it as well. I'm going to transition into the next question, and this is about balance. So we talked about motherhood, young professionalism, transitioning from a student to a young professional. So Bree, I'll start with you. How do you find balance in all of that?
You have to find balance in the imbalance. I hope that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, maybe say that again. One more time.
You have to find balance in the imbalance. And I think that means something different to everybody. I'm sure you can all relate to that in a little bit different, maybe different ways. But for me, what that means is every day there's something that's going to pull your attention more than something else. But listen to that and pay attention to that. Where is your attention going? And what are you spending your time on in terms of, is your attention leading you to the things that you want to accomplish in your future goals? Balance can look like many different things. It doesn't have to be zen and roses and rainbows and sunshine all day, every day. It doesn't have to look like things feeling comfortable. You can find balance in the uncomfortable, in the trials and the tribulations. As an entrepreneur, you're going to have a ton of them, and there are going to be really, really tough days. But being able to take some time to recognize that the imbalance you're experiencing, the way that your attention is being diverted and focused on more things than others on particular days, it's all just part of the journey.
Thank you. And Shanie, what about you? Where do you find balance?
I'm not going to lie to you. I don't think I've found balance yet.
I'm working on it as well. That's why I wanted to ask this question.
I don't think you are able to find, and it is to your point, Bree, I don't think you're able to find balance by assuming that everything will always be stable, because it isn't, and especially not for an entrepreneur. The day-to-day is unstable, and it's constant changes, and it's being able to roll with the punches. So I think the best way you prepare yourself for that is by understanding that you can't get too comfortable where you're at. And always be looking for change. Get comfortable with the idea of change. That applies to anybody, not just an entrepreneur, for sure. Like I said, there's no answer key, so you kind of have to be able to roll with the punches, and if the unknown approaches you, just be able to tackle it head first. So.
Absolutely. And one way that I am finding balance is by leaning on my mentors and my support system to check me. Right? Sometimes you just need someone to check you and provide you with that reality check to say, hey, you're really unbalanced right now. So I did want to talk about having a mentor. Does anyone in the room have a mentor today? Raise your hand high if you do. Okay, I see some more hands. They're coming out. If you don't have a mentor today, look around the room, tap into TechBridge Nation, and find someone that really inspires you. It will change your life, speaking from experience. So, Bree, do you have a professional mentor or a support system or anyone that lifts you up and builds you up?
Absolutely. And I don't have one particular mentor. Over the course of my life, I've had several mentors, and they have all helped me to overcome some sort of challenge or access some opportunity in my life that maybe I was experiencing at that particular time. But for me, mentorship is more of a cumulative experience. I said this before, everybody knows something that you don't, right? If you interact with one individual, there is something that you can learn from that person. So for me, mentorship is a constant everyday thing, and it's not one particular person. It's every person that I interact with. I try to learn something from that person, a little snack piece of mentorship, if you will. And I like to think that the universe, conspires to get you to where you want to be in life. So all of the people that I interact with, I try to think are, getting me to where I want to be and are bringing me those little pieces of mentorship that I need in that moment.
Fabulous. What about you, Shanie? What's your support system like?
Yeah, I think I have both, formal and informal mentors. The formal ones, we meet regularly and we do those check-ins like you talked about, but there's a lot of mentors of mine that probably don't even know that they're my mentors.
Yeah, me too. I relate to that greatly.
They're just individuals that we touch base regularly, or maybe they're in my line of work, or I'll give a great example. One of my mentors is also in the room here today. I don't know where Frank is, but
Frank, are you in the room? Raise your hand. Frank? Frank?
Hi, Frank.
Woo! Hi, Frank.
But Frank kind of was with me in multiple stages throughout my academic and now professional career. So he's kind of been able to guide me through the process of whatever my next step was. That's an example of who I consider a formal mentor for me, because he's been in all these touch points. But even people that you just look up to as role models, like my boss, Lindsay, is the first female CEO that our chamber has ever seen in its existence. And being able to look at her as an example of what it means to be like a female leader, and to be a complete badass in her role and in economic development especially, it's what kind of fuels you. And I think mentorship in those regards is what pushes you forward.
We have time for one last question. Right, Dawn? One last question?
How about we start questions?
Okay, we'll start Q&A. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Did I get it right with these guys? The best way you show that, let's bring some hard questions. Let's get some real answers. Here we go. Lily, you're first.
Is there anything you learned now that you would wish you'd known when you first started?
Yes.
Good one.
So many things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I just go back to the idea of these preconceived notions, right? Like, you have this idea of what it's going to be like in the real world, and I promise you, it's not anything like that, and that is the greatest thing. We're all just human beings. We're all just trying to help each other and make our way in this world. So don't be afraid to just come to the table every day and be your true, authentic self, whether it's in your professional career, your home life, or your academic career, too.
Who asked that question?
Lily did.
Oh, Lily, that's your name? Yes. Thank you, Lily. That was actually going to be my final question to wrap up, so you read my mind. One thing that I learned is the art of patience. When I was an undergraduate student and early in my career, I used to wish for the future. And I would say, I'll be happy when I have a bachelor's degree. I'll be happy when I have a master's degree. I'll be happy when I launch my business. I'll be happy when I get married. I'll be happy when I have a home. I'll be happy when I have my first job, et cetera, et cetera. And all those things happened for me, and I still wasn't happy because I wasn't present and living in the moment. So that's my advice to my younger self and also to all of you, is just take the time to enjoy the experience in every single moment.
And I think really quickly, I think the biggest thing that I wish somebody the me coming out of high school was I really wish I knew how to deal with failure better than I did. I think school sometimes conditions you to think that if you fail, that means you did it wrong, and that's not good, and avoid that negative stigma at all costs, and that is not how it's like in the real world. In the real world, failure is a good thing because that's one step closer to success, and getting past the mental stigma of what failure meant from school was something that I wish I knew how to do earlier on.
You knew it was coming.
Hi.
How would you say the advice, again, to these groups of students here, that you separate your emotions from decisions you've had to make in your success, all being very young and super successful?
Emotions. That's scary, similar to imposter syndrome. I think I separate my emotions through the mentor relationships that I hold. I think it's really important, to Bree's point, to soak up that experience from others and then apply it to who we are. So that's how I overcome. I feel those emotions deeply, but instead of acting immediately, then I reach out to my Dawn or to my Sue Riley or to someone that I know I can lean on, and I ask them the critical question, and then I act.
So I'm a very emotional person, and sometimes it's really hard for me to separate my emotions from the decisions that I make. But one thing that helps me is to just sort of stop and take a breath. And I have some mantras that I use as well. So never make permanent decisions based off of temporary feelings, right? So get through those emotions, feel them, ride that wave, and then think about it the next day and make that decision. That really helps me when I'm trying to separate my emotions from my decision making.
And I think one of the biggest mistakes that we make when we are in the professional world is that these emotions don't exist, or we should at the very least pretend that they don't. And that's actually what got us into the problems in the first place. This idea of like what professionalism really means, how you have to dress, how you have to talk, how you have to do all the things, like what you imagined a professionalism was. And I think it really comes down to leaning into transparency. I'm lucky that I have a team that we're able to do that with. We're young, we're modern, and we're able to lean into some of those more futuristic ideologies of what it really means to be a professional. But if you're not honest with yourself about how it affects you, you can't take a step back and address it in the ways that we're talking about. You can't take the time to think on it and sleep on it overnight and determine if that's the right decision. So it comes down to being transparent and open with your teams. To make sure that you get through it in the right way.
Anybody else? Coming for you next.
So this kind of pivots back to the economic development side, but what is our area doing to kind of curtail brain drain, and how do you quantify that?
That's a really great question. Who wants to start? I represent Reading, Pennsylvania, so very happy to answer that as well on behalf of Reading, but I'd really love Bree and Shanie to speak on behalf of Northeastern Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I think Bree and I do get to collaborate on a lot of different things. She is in the Scranton side, I'm in the Wilkes-Barre side, but a lot of it ultimately starts with small, what we call like beta tests, pilot programs. We work with a lot of organizations that have this really intense, high-level data about the future of our economy and where it's going in the future. Essentially, what we determine, I'll give a very basic example. Like, we've determined that there's a lack of computer programming skills located here within Northeastern Pennsylvania. Local colleges are just not producing enough qualified candidates. So what do? We attribute that to the fact that maybe it's just not being brought to these students at a young enough age for them to be able to determine if that's what they want to do with their life. So how do you, as an economic development professional, understand that that is the future of a core industry, and how do you mitigate the future of it? So we develop these programs where we give that access to students, test it out, get their feedback, and determine if at the end of this test period, they are more interested in STEM. And if the answer is yes, which spoiler alert, the answer was yes, you know that that's a solution that works towards this issue. And that's what ultimately, it's innovative solutions like that that address core parts of the industry. And I know for myself at the Chamber, we are looking at ways to expand that to all industries, to all of the local industries that are within northeastern Pennsylvania as well. It starts small. You have to start small in ways like that. There's a lot of red tape to go through, but there's efforts being made. And I know on the Scranton end, I'm super happy to see that they're doing the same things over there too.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's just so much to get involved in as a young professionals, right? Like, we have a YP council where you can get involved and come interact with other young professionals, like all of us sitting here, get some of that mentorship, get some of that advice and provide that back to other young professionals as well. And there's so much hidden opportunity here that people just don't see on the daily basis. So it's really easy to get into the mentality of like, oh, I have to go to New York City, or I have to go to Philly or Los Angeles to really make a name for myself. But there's so much hidden opportunity already here, and we can create more of that if you all stay here. So please, stay here. We want to work with you to create the future that you want to see right here in your own backyard. For myself,
Why not us? Why not here? Why not now?
and we can create more of that if you all stay here. So please, stay here. We want to work with you to create the future that you want to see right here in your own backyards.
Why not us? Why not here? Why not now? That's the Tech Bridge Nation mantra. And I think that really speaks to brain gain rather than brain drain.
I think we got time for one more. Can I ask it? All right, so you guys probably know what I'm going to ask. There's a lot of students in here who have heard me. Some have referred to me as the dream guy, because I ask everybody, what's your dream? Because if you don't dream it, you can't do it, right? So the TechBridge tagline is, thank you, Michelle, why not us? Why not here? Why not now? I'll say it again. Why not us? Why not here? Why not now? What's that mean to you guys?
That's a really big question. I'll start. Is that okay?
Yeah.
To me, it is the opportunity to dream when I hear that statement. And I turn it inward to myself. Why not me? Why not today? And then just why not? And I use that in my life every single day when I'm taking a new opportunity on, accepting a challenge, and it motivates me. So that's how I apply that personally.
Yeah, it just, that tagline there really just goes to show that anything is possible here. It sounds so cliche, but I truly believe that all things come together for good. You're in this room right here in this moment for a reason. And that reason, I believe, is for us to show you that if you really want to be an entrepreneur, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not in 5 years, maybe not in 10 years, if it's a part of your journey, then there are resources and supports here to help you accomplish whatever that idea may be. There's no idea too big or too small. If you can dream it, you can do it. It sounds so cliche, but believe me, it is 100% true. We are here to support you and help you on your entrepreneurial journey, no matter what you need or what that assistance looks like.
I think it all comes back to really, and everything that you've been hearing today, it's the power of innovation, right? It's about being able to look at a situation, look at your environment, look at the world that you live in, and as a young professional, people who are going to be young professionals and the future of our workforce, figuring out what you like and what you don't like, and for the things that you don't like, fixing it, like determining how you actually want it to be and being a part of the solution. If you don't like what you see, you can build it in a better way and give yourselves the power to be able to do that.
Anybody else before we go? All right, how about giving it up to this man? And they're going to be around, and you can talk to them. And yes, we believe, why not us? Why not here? Why not now? Okay, so Katie's doing NFTs in this room. Mandy's doing